On this episode of Arguing Art, we are going to be discussing variety, and no, that doesn't mean you're going to see Micah singing and dancing. So, Micah, on today's episode, you're going to be discussing or explaining to us what variety is.
Yes.
What is variety?
Mostly it's me singing and dancing.
Oh.
No, I'm kidding. I just had to follow it up because you can see me sing and dance if you will go to the bar with me on karaoke night.
Oh, yes, that's true.
Live band karaoke is a wonderful, wonderful thing. Anyway, in the context of this, in the context of the 7 or 8 principles of art, variety is, as we discussed in the last episode, it's sort of the antithesis of harmony.
Okay.
Where harmony is everything flowing together. Variety then is how many different pieces do you have?
Okay.
How varied are your elements? So an example might be of harmony was circle, circle, ellipsoid, all these biomorphic shapes. See how we're using our vocab again?
Yes.
But so you've got all these biomorphic shapes that are very, very similar. And then you introduced a geometric shape or two. Now you've got variety.
Okay.
Now that is not to say that it would necessitate both biomorphic and geometric shapes in order to achieve variety.
Okay.
That's just an example.
Okay.
So you could have variety depending on all biomorphic shapes, and depending on how different those shapes are, that can still be variety.
Okay.
So if you've got circle, 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 like every perfect circles over and over, that's more repetitive and harmonious.
Okay.
Than if you've got circle, all these cell shaped flagellate
lines, amoebas all over the painting. Okay.
That is varied. I mean, that has a variety in it because those shapes are very different.
Okay.
I think another good example would be I should have looked up his name before we started. Rauschenberg.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure that's right. I'm sure someone will correct me. But he did a study of colors, and basically it's a rectangle of a color on a square of a color on the canvas.
Okay.
Which the whole background is one color. And the purpose of it was to study the difference of colors when they're placed next to different colors.
Okay.
Are you familiar with that theory at all?
I'm not.
Okay. Basically, in a nutshell, because this isn't even what this is about, the color, we'll do it on a gray scale. Okay, so a medium gray
Okay.
next to a dark black.
I actually am very familiar with this.
Okay.
I just didn't place the name.
Yeah.
Okay. But since we've already started, you might as well explain it.
So a medium gray placed next to a dark black will look brighter, or darker. There we go.
Yes.
I almost screwed up the example. It'll look darker than when you place it next to a white. And that's because when you take in those two colors next to each other, there's a word for it. I'm not sure what that word is. I won't even be able to look it up. But because of the way that our eye takes in color and the way our brain processes it, it does see it as a different value.
Okay. So is it the same way that if you put a shade of gray next to a shade of purple, then the gray takes on a little bit of the color of the purple? Yes.
Exactly. And a lot of Rauschenberg's work was, if that's the right guy, studying what colors go well next to each other, that sort of thing.
Okay.
And how it affects them. Anyway, but the point being that it's 3 rectangles, or basically 3 just pools of color.
Okay.
And because they were of a complementary color palette, those colors went well together.
Okay.
That's very harmonious.
Okay.
Not a lot of variety in there because it's it's just 3 squares.
Okay.
Now, if it was a triangle on this canvas with a circle in the middle, still not a lot going on.
Okay.
There's a little bit more variety in
Sure.
there, but you can see that as opposed to a Pollock.
Okay.
The amount of variety that goes into something like that.
All the lines and the rhythm, which we'll get to later.
Yes. So those are just an example of 2 ends of a spectrum of harmony versus variety.
Okay.
I think that's covers it fairly well.
Sure. Well, what's the benefit of variety? Why would you want to introduce variety into a piece?
Variety is the spice of life. If everything is totally harmonious, it can get a little flat, a little boring.
Okay.
I guess if you look at my work, it's easy for me to refer to my work because
Sure.
I know it. The variety in mine is fairly limited because I've got a very specific idea I want to get across.
Okay.
Now, if you look at something that, say, a good example would be Guernica by Picasso.
Okay.
There is a harmonious feel into it because all the shapes are of the same, I would say, nature or quality. All the people and the animals are treated in the same way.
Okay.
But because there's so much going on in this giant painting, it's very varied. There's a lot of variety in it because there's like a scene here, a scene here, a scene here, a scene here. All these different events going on. Now, Guernica was painted by Pablo Picasso in reaction to the Spanish Revolution.
Okay.
This is back in, what would that be? 1930s, 1940s. So in that whole gangster type time in Spain. But anyway, so it was a reaction as to this village being burned down and being attacked. So that variety, though, can often make you feel like there's too much going on.
Okay.
Especially when you get into Pollock, which I think a lot of people, that's what their issue is with Pollock.
Okay.
But with all this stuff going on, there's a lot of stuff coming in. Well, that's very appropriate for a war piece.
Oh, it creates that feeling of discomfort.
Yes. Raft of the Medusa is another great example.
Sure.
That one breaks my heart every time I see it. I've never actually seen it in person. But a lot of people going on, a lot of different positions, very varied. Look that one up. It's about this passenger ship was possibly going to go down.
Okay.
And they had to get rid of some people. So the entire crew and the captain put all of the passengers on a raft.
Okay.
And sent them out and said good luck. And they weren't found for weeks, and they actually had to resort to cannibalism. And it was a huge scandal when it happened because it was horrible what they did to these people. But anyway, because of that variety, it makes that variety of all those different elements going on in there really hits you in a sort of a discordant level.
Sure.
So.
Okay. And I think variety could also draw focus. For example, if you had a painting where all across the painting were pictures of the little man from the restroom sign.
Oh, yeah.
And it's him, just row after row after row, very harmonious, all the same. If every one of them is white and the one in the bottom corner is red, that variety is going to, one, create more interest, two, draw your focus into that bottom corner. So you suddenly, you completely change the meaning of the work by adding just the smallest amount of variety.
Definitely. And that gets into the principle of emphasis, which we will talk about later as well.
Okay.
But yeah, you can achieve emphasis through variety, which is exactly what you were talking about. So.
Okay. Well, I think we should wrap this one up. We explained it pretty well. Difference between variety and harmony is just a variance. Variety, exactly the same, exactly like what it sounds like.
Just what it sounds like.
So leave us a comment. Tell us what you think, and we'll see you next time.